Hello, I am Steph Morrison from the Canadian Schoolhouse.
And I'm Christine from the Canadian Schoolhouse as well. Hi everyone.
Welcome to our broadcast today. Today we are talking about like one of my most important topics. And in fact, if you knew me personally, you'd probably like I could talk on and on and on about parent-led education. And I actually love that term, parent-led education, because to me, like even to put the word schooling in there just really gives that type. I know because we now know it as school and it's of what we know as school that kind of relates to learning, but really I find what we get as from parent-led education is really a very different aspect of learning. So I love the words parent-led education. It's the same as homeschooling, though. That's just a real common word. And I also love the just home education, right? Works really well. And of course, just that, I mean, home education really can be anywhere. We've got so many different kinds of like car schooling and world schooling and boat schooling, as somebody on our page was sharing recently, which I just love seeing that. She's sharing pictures of her kids doing schoolwork a week or two ago. And I love seeing that because really learning should happen everywhere. And because we've had now, 3 or 4 generations of really being part of this educational system that we have, the institutional public education, but even more so, and it's not even just public education, but just that institutionalized education where you have a great big class of kids and you have one or two people actually just doing the teaching or the educating, is kind of what we're used to. But I've got lots of throughout the years. So I say I've been homeschooling since birth. It could be because I knew when my 2 younger ones were born, that's what I was going to do. I knew I was going to educate them myself. So I say I've been homeschooling for 13 years, and in all that time of being, reading and picking things up on homeschooling, my reasons to homeschool have really changed over time. And one of the resources we have it in our magazine a lot. Like Homeschooling Facts are really big, right? We don't want to just know. It's great that we love to spend time with our kids and we want to share those beliefs and values with our kids, and we want to encourage them and give them that one-on-one attention that really is the greatest for learning. But having those nice facts to see, well, what does that effect of homeschooling really have on kids? And it's not like that. I mean, I was in public education. I have an older son that went the majority of his life in public education, and we're all turning out all right. And whatever we may have lacked, we were able to make that up for as you get to be an adult. And that's really when you get that freedom to learn. I love that my kids have a lot more freedom to just be kids. They don't, I mean, we have a little bit of a schedule, I guess, but it's not anything like the schedule our family life would have to have if we were actually in the school system, right? Like my kids would wake up, at least my one son would wake up much earlier. We'd have to get them to the school. We'd have to pick them up. And pretty much every family thing we do, it has to kind of go around. So now you're building your family life around a school setting instead of like planning your learning around your family life, right? Which is just one of the ways I love doing that as businesses. I'm a big advocate. Not only am I a great homeschooling advocate, but I'm an advocate of working from home. And I often say that, like, it is just so much better for life in general, especially as a parent, to be able to put your work life around your family life for the most part. I mean, for work, we all maybe have certain things we need to be at a certain time, but lots of working from home, you can still really, put your work life around your family life, as opposed to if I had to go out and do some job at some set hours. Right now, my family life has to go around my work life. So that's just a little bit of my background of philosophy, just on the value I put it, like family first, right?
Yes.
That's what I really believe God is leading us to. That's what I believe I'm convicted to in my heart. All these other things are important. Working is important, right? It's important to learn throughout our whole lives, not just when we're young. It's
Exactly.
really important to learn for our whole lives. But as parents, we get that privilege. If you're educating them yourself, we get that privilege of being able to really, really guide them and influence them in so many ways that you probably wouldn't do if they were away from you for, I don't know, what is it, 8 or 9 hours or 7 or 8 hours? I guess it depends.
Yeah, but 8 hours, yeah.
Depends how long the bus ride is.
Yeah,
I know
exactly.
where I am, we're kind of rural, and our closest city is Peterborough. So anybody that goes to high school, they actually have to drive, and I'm sure the bus ride is over an hour. I mean, it takes about an hour to get there. So that really long bus ride is just adding on to that school day. And I know for kids, it's great. You get to hang out with other friends and other kids, but you still get to do that as a child that has parent-led education. And right, Christine, maybe we get a little bit more creative, or we get a little bit more specific about creating those social interactions for our kids,
of course,
right?
Yeah, there's way more flexibility to do that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You really get to choose the kids your kids hang out with, right? And the families. I mean, I don't know if it's that way for you, but for most of it, we're getting together as families, and so we just naturally gravitate to families. So friends my husband and I have, we really get together with other families that have kids around the same age, and that can work together or play together, right? That we can really just do that as a family. So one of the things I wanted to get on is the Homeschooling Facts. And so this is our new magazine for fall. This is our fall magazine, just came out at the beginning of September. But one of the things that's in here is a little section called New Facts on Homeschooling. So this, the author of this, Dr. Brian Ray, he has a website called NERI. It's a National Home Education Research Institute. And on his website is all kinds of research-based facts. So that would be one place, whether it's for yourself or whether you want to encourage others. That is a great place to arm yourself with the facts that homeschooling is a great option for kids. It's a great option for parents. I think it's actually much easier to parent my kids when I don't have really, and it would be it would be like the opposite sort of way they get raised in public school. Because without a doubt, our children, whoever we're sending them to, wherever we're sending them for hours and hours of their day and on a regular basis, they're getting raised by that institution. And most of us, especially if we love God, that's really not the right setting for them to be in. But even if you're not really following God right now in your life, it's just as a parent, there's so many values that are not honored within the school system. And it's not to say, but you can't sometimes honor that with the way that the school system is set up. Again, really big classrooms, 1 to 2 teachers, lots of social interaction happening with kids of all the same age. I'm not even going to go into all the negatives of public education. We all have our different ones that affect us more. But I want to go on some of the facts here. So I'm going to read. Now, our digital magazine is free. You can find the most recent one at tosmagazine.com. So, and then you can also put in a search. And so if you're finding anything, sorry, what was that, Christine?
Oh, I just put it in the comments.
Oh, perfect. Yes, so the link is right in the comments there, so you can go check out the digital magazine. It's always free, and there are some subscriptions. If you like the print magazine, you can get that as well. But in this article, so I'm just going to read a couple excerpts from here. Parent-led home-based education was the norm in the United States about 1900, and that is the same for Canada. It was the norm in Canada until about the 1900s. Then homeschooling nearly disappeared to comprise far less than 1% of school-age children. By 2010, demographically, Homeschool families were disproportionately white Anglo, very median income, slightly above average in terms of parents' formal education level, and noticeably disappropriate, anyway,
Disproportionate.
very much Christian in terms of religious beliefs. So really it was a Christian movement, a lot because they just saw where those values you wanted to instill in children. And now there's a whole bunch in between here. So I'm gonna do this next paragraph too. As of by March 2020, nearly 4% of American children were being home educated. Certain demographic proportionalities were changing. Then came government lockdowns due to concerns about a virus-related illness called COVID-19, and whopping changes rapidly emerged. So there's a little bit more in there. Great to read it, but I'm just going to flesh out a couple of things here. So it goes on, getting near the end of the article. The reasons parents gave for homeschooling 15 and more years ago typically revolved around wanting to pass on certain values and beliefs to children, providing more parent-guarded social interactions and associations for their children, and being able to use alternative pedagogical approaches. Today, it is more common to find parents talking about a wider variety of motivations. For example, a recent market survey, McShane 2021, found that the top 3 responses for homeschooling were the coronavirus pandemic. 68% of respondents say that that was important or very important. Flexibility to shape the child's learning experience. Amen. 68% found that important to very important. And one-on-one attention, also 68%. That's very interesting. Like that 68% actually came up in 3 times. And I would say for me, I mean, for both of us, both Christine and I, we were homeschooling before the pandemic and all the stuff that was happening there that made public education very unappealing. So nothing related to that, but definitely I can relate to that. You know, those last 2, the flexibility to shape their child's learning experience. And that is like one of the best things, I think. I love being able to change that up from year to year. For one thing, my kids change, and I have never been one to pick on one curriculum and just stay with that all the time, or one even style of learning. I'm learning more about my boys as they get older. I'm actually maturing a bit myself still, so I get to be more, more open to different approaches. And really, I'm just trying to definitely now, I've got this in my head now, I didn't always, but definitely now, I'm really watching how my kids are working with what they're learning, because I actually don't do a lot of teaching. And so that's another thing I want to say about parent-led education. Don't think you have to be a teacher. And I don't even mean like, don't think you have to have hopefully everybody realizes you need no educational background in teaching to be able to teach your own children. If you were able to teach them how to walk and how to talk, and if you're able to teach them manners and etiquette and all those other different life skills that we teach our kids, you know, whether they're in a public school system or not, you know, those are still things you just extend that to teaching them everything, and you have the resources. So that's what we use, right? We use the resources to learn. So I oversee my children's learning, and I am there to help them. Mostly, I am there to help them not get distracted. As I was so much doing with my one son yesterday. Oh, his mind was just going everywhere. And I'm there. It's like my common statement: one right after the other, Dom. One right after the other. So and it's just doing right now. He's just doing subtraction, and it's just, you know, he's got quite a few pages to go still in this math course he's doing. That is just, you know, really getting some of those subtraction facts down and easy. And he actually does do them, like he just does them quick. He does do them one right after the other if he's not distracted by everything. Yeah. And it's actually not anything we have a very distraction-free environment, but it's his own little head gets caught up in one thing or another. And I just see him like
wonders.
Going on. Oh, see, I'm talking about him, and he's got his little head poked in here. I actually, because I just have so much stuff I'm doing today work-wise, and I've got canning I want to do, so I'm hoping to fit that in. It's like it's not even a learning day for them today. And see how wonderful that is? Like it doesn't, so today I've got other stuff going on in my life that although I'm around, although they're here and we're going to go out, I really meant to walk we've got kind of trails we walk around kind of regularly, go out and get some fresh air and play with the dog and play with some of our other animals, and like that we can just fit in, whenever it works. So just the flexibility. And so if you want to encourage others, whether you're watching this and you're not quite homeschooling, you're deciding yourself, or you're a homeschooler and wanting to know, like, how can I encourage my friends or my family or somebody else to really, just try it out, like try it out for a year. I shared something because we just had a press release go out from the Old Schoolhouse on the preschool, a lot on preschool. And as I was saying in that press release, that preschool is optional. So for us, that's junior kindergarten, in kindergarten. I'm not sure exactly how that works in the States. But those two are optional. It's not even really considered homeschooling. Like the let's say the government wouldn't even consider that homeschooling at those ages. It's not till you get into grade one where that's starting to be your formal education. Now, for me, even my older son of my two younger ones, I didn't start anything with him until he was 7, which was fine. So again, think that it's not like you have to start all kinds of things and do all kinds of different get into courses and get into, like, just create an atmosphere of learning in your home, right? And then as the years go on, you learn more and you get to find the unlimited resources. Like, I don't know if you found this, Christine, when you started with this company, with the Old Schoolhouse. So we share a lot about other companies that have homeschooling resources. So I never even knew there was so many other resources. Like I thought I must have heard all the companies by now, right? After 10 years of homeschooling, I must have heard of most of the companies by now, but not even a fraction.
No.
In fact, I just found this other company today and I thought, oh, that's a neat math program. And that's a company actually out of Australia. And I thought, oh, that is such a neat approach. I wonder what that would be like for my boys. So again, another one. I think I might try out their free trial and see what my boys think of it. And again, and it's not just about, as a parent, what you think works. That's part of it. But I've tried to let go of that and just move to what works good for my boys. And they're at the age where they can assess that well. Like, oh, this is working for me or not.
Right.
So that is the real big stuff that I wanted to share about just what parent-led education is. So I hope, like, again, I could ramble on forever, but I'm gonna prompt Christine with a question here to share, because it is so important that you grasp what homeschooling is. It's not actually teaching your kids. Sure, I mean, as parents, we teach them all kinds of things. So it's still that kind of teaching, but it's not where you need to feel like I need to teach my kids. No, you need to oversee them in the resources that you get. And maybe there's some subjects you love to teach, and go for it. Create a course, create a lesson plan. That's how lots of the companies that sell homeschooling resources now, like lessons and choruses and curriculum for homeschoolers, lots of them started with that. It was just somebody that was homeschooling and they couldn't find really what they were looking for. And so they created their own curriculum for their kids. Awesome way, not my thing. So I'm so glad there's other people that do that. But it's actually really overwhelming almost. That's the difficulty with homeschooling. It's overwhelming to choose what curriculum you're at no lack of resources of the curriculum to use. So Christine, can you tell us if you've got anything to pick from your own life or just from your own thoughts? Like, how can we encourage others around us to follow our example without being pushy?
Well, exactly. I mean, you were mentioning before about we've been homeschooling before the pandemic, and I mean, when that happened, it was almost no change to our family life because we were already home. We're already, staying away from the general public. We did obviously had have social gatherings and stuff like that, which had to stop at that time. But I mean,
Mhm.
I was so grateful when it got scary there. Like, okay, everybody's getting sick, but
Mhm.
your kids are home, so you don't have to worry about that, right? And yeah, a lot of people over the years, because they know I'm homeschooling, and in my circle, I'm pretty much the only one who's doing it. So
Yeah.
I'm always trying to say, you know, you can always do
Mhm.
this, because if I can do it, you can do it. And
Yes.
the main thing I tell people is, you don't have to mimic the public school. Like, you don't have to, like you were saying,
Mhm.
you don't
Good
have to
point.
be this person in front of a chalkboard and you've got like tons, you have to plan lessons and all this stuff, because what's out there now, there's so many resources that, I mean, you can get courses where other people are teaching your kids, which is
Yep.
a burden off of you. And then there's books that give you like the first curriculum that I bought was from Sunlight Curriculum. And
Mhm.
what I loved best about that is, for a first time homeschooler, they had lesson plans all done for you. And Sunlight is just
Mhm.
an example. There's other curriculums out there that do the same thing, and they give you instruction. Okay, tell your child, like, we're talking about this and how to teach it. Like, if
Yeah.
you've never taught anything in your life, you can totally do it because they give you instructions on how to do it. So
Mhm.
there's so much out there. Like, a lot of people think it's just a small community that homeschools, but like, as you said, with the numbers as of 2020, they're like, it's so many people now who are doing it. So you will, one, have
Mhm.
resources out there, and two, you'll have support. So there's so many groups, even physical groups that you can go visit in person. And then there's
Yeah.
online groups that you can also follow. Like, for example, we've got our Facebook group, Homeschooling with a
Mhm.
Canadian Schoolhouse, on Facebook. There, if you're not a part of it, join, and join the conversation. But yeah, where you can just ask these questions as you go, because we're all learning. Every family is different, and that's the beauty part. It's flexible, right? So whether you're working at an outside job, whether you're working at home, whether you've got two parents working, and how do you can still fit that in, because homeschooling doesn't have to be between 9 and 5, or some people homeschool in the evenings when they come home, and they work during the day, and you figure it out and you work with what's best for your kids. So I don't know if that
Mhm.
covers everything, but that's one of the main things that I try to encourage people. Like, don't worry about scheduling, don't worry about timing. Like, people freak out and say, well, how many hours
Mhm.
does homeschool need to take, because I have to work, and I have it can take as much as you work around it. So
Mhm.
yeah, it's
Yeah. Make
definitely
it a
flexible.
priority, just like some of those other things in our lives are a priority, right? So you
Yeah,
do have to make it a priority. You do have to make time for
of
it.
course.
Just like in general, we have to make time for our kids, right? And
Yeah.
we all want to. And so maybe just some of that time now is really, and I'm going to tell you, full disclosure here, I have been really struggling with making that time, and just various things going on in my life that kind of take me in all different directions. But lately I have been really struggling to just like sit down and do some of those things together. They have their kind of workbook and they can do most of that on their own. But I
Yeah.
do want to have that time. I want to have at least an hour or 2 hours of a day that we're doing learning, which is usually only 4 days out of the week anyway. Where I do sit down and we're exploring different things. So we have a few things that we do with art together. There's this new thing we've been doing, like World Watch. It's this Christian, like it's a 10-minute newscast, because I'm very anti-news. I'm very anti getting news from. I don't even like the I probably shouldn't say this streaming on social media, but I can't have constant stuff just thrown at me, and that's kind of what the news is, right? The good, the bad, it's just constant news thrown at you. So I love these little things because it's good to know for our kids, especially for me too, but it's good for the kids to know what's happening and around the world, but it's with a Christian worldview. So, and I love the end of it, how they do, no matter what the news is, God always stands, or it's something like that. It's God is always in control, or God always stands. So it's being able to see that we live in a world that is however it happens to be at the time, right? But also reinforcing those values of trusting in God and seeing Him as our refuge and our shield, and our just in our times of good and bad. I have learned to be content in all situations, and that's what I really try to, those values, right? I try to push that onto my boys. And I think if they were in school all day long, they would feel more anxious because they're hearing things that are very much outside of a Christian worldview as well, but just outside of even what, lots of things to have kids worry and have kids be concerned about things that, as parents, we really don't want them to have that worry and concern. But when they're out there, away from us for so long, because it's okay that we see things as a family together and see things that are really worrisome, because we can talk about that.
Yes.
It's actually an excellent opportunity to have a discussion. And whatever your values are as a parent, you can pass them on to your kids through discussions. I think that's one of the greatest things that I'm doing now that my boys are older. They're 13 and 10. So they both really add their own thoughts and opinions to conversations, and that's, I want them to grow that skill even more, because it is a skill. Sure, you can have an opinion and talk, but are you talking in a way that's supporting your opinion and so that's kind of some of the things we're just doing. So I just do that naturally throughout the day, right? That's not like or I have to put it in a learning day. That's just something I am passing on to them naturally throughout the day. So one of the things I wanted to add, there's this try homeschooling one, so I'm just going to throw that on there, the ticker there, and maybe we'll take off this parent-led education. But tryhomeschooling.com has a download, and I don't even know exactly what's in there. There's tons of stuff in there, and sometimes we change up that, what's in there. But think not only that stuff is going to be for you as a homeschooler, whether you're just starting homeschooling or you're just thinking about homeschooling, or you've been homeschooling for a while. This big info pack has all kinds of different things. It has encouragement. It has like different sources that you can go to, just different information that you can share with other homeschoolers. So again, to encourage others to homeschool, or to encourage others to just lead their own children in their education is with all that stuff in that pack. It'll help you do that a little bit more. And what are the other things we had? What else were we going to share there, Christine? Oh, this is why we homeschool. So you go ahead and share that link. I guess just in the comments, right? Would be good. So we have an article series that we are growing over time. We've got quite a few. I don't know. We've got 5 or 6 articles there, maybe not more. But This Is Why We Homeschool is the name of the series. And we're really trying to get submissions from all different walks of homeschooling. So, because if there is, like, all families are really quite unique, right? One family to another. Even though we can have commonalities, I even think of some of the friends that we gather with regularly, like they do their homeschooling differently than us. They kind of have a different way of doing their family life than I. Like it's so educating your children is just as a unique experience, right? Homeschooling, people have different reasons to homeschool, and that's why we want this article series. This is why we homeschool. So read through those to not only not only be encouraged in the homeschooling lifestyle yourself, but also see that vast variety of families that are homeschooling, and the reasons that they have to homeschool, which, if it's anything like me, like, it changes over time as you see different things come out and whatever your family is. So there's not one way to homeschool. There's not the right way. There's not the best way, just like there isn't one way to parent your children. Think of a parent-led education. Think of homeschooling as an extension of parenting. I shouldn't even have to say that. It is an extension of parenting, right? Think back to that facts I said before the 1900s, so before about 1900, right? Homeschooling, parent-led education was the norm. That's what everybody did. And then public education came to be for different reasons. And then parents just thought that was the place where your children should learn. And it's not the greatest option. Sure, they can learn in public school, but it's not the greatest option. It's not the greatest option for their socializing, not the greatest option for the kind of education, the way that their learning style is, depending who it is. And it's not the best option for your family life. Even thinking outside of the education, it's not great for your family life. You're so constricted. I think of my, so I had one child that went almost all through public education. I did homeschool him 1 year, but there's 10 or 11 years that he was in school. And I don't think it really created the bond that I would have loved to have had with him, like I do with my younger boys, because it just wasn't possible when they're away from you for hours of the day, right? So that's just a few little things. Did you have anything else you wanted to add, Christine, on this encouraging parent-led education?
Well, I mean, just to reiterate what you said, it's just we're raising our children. Whether we're raising their character, we're shaping their character, or we're teaching them books, it's all encompassing, right? It's in one breath you can say, okay, this is how we do math, but also you need to wash your hands because this and this. Like it's you're teaching constantly, so it's not just okay, there's parenting and then there's teaching. Like it's all together, it's all one. So I mean, and I can't imagine sending my kids off. Like I would miss them so much if I sent them away for 6-7 hours for the day and then have to catch up when they get home and then do everything else. But at least you're walking with them as they grow. And I think that I can't imagine anything else. But that's just this is why
and it's parent like kind of why what you shared there. It's sort of that saying, I think, for every single parent, that is, it is easier to parent your children when you're the one taking on their education, when you're the one leading their education. It's just, I'm just going to end with that one, because that I think is relative to everybody. It is easier to parent your kids when you can educate them as well, when you lead their education. So I'm thinking for next week, we've got in 2 weeks, we'll have another live stream, and we've got slatted in there for that we're wanting to do interview a homeschool graduate, but we don't have somebody completely confirmed. In fact, I would love to have several homeschool graduates that went in different paths that we can show the homeschooling and those considering homeschooling, because that is one of the things that comes up most often when I'm talking to people, is that they're concerned about, will they be able to get into college and university? And the definite answer to that is, it is actually not that much more difficult to get into college or university when you're homeschooled than it is when you go to a public education institute. There might be, just like it is at high school, in a public institution, they, I don't know, it might even be as early as grade 10 or grade 11, you decide what you want to do, and then you take some of the classes that get you to be going that path, right? And so that's just the same thing with homeschooling. So in a high school, you find, okay, well, either electives or really just preparing them for what that education might be is great. Is a pretty easy thing to do as a parent. There doesn't need to be an institutional backing behind you to make sure that they can get into college or university. And I might add that, oh yes, I was just going to say that exact same thing. Thank you. Colleges love homeschoolers. They are like buying for them, because when you just think about a college or university as a business, and they want to share they want to have good stats. They want to have good stats of their students graduating from the programs they got into, right? So what really the stats tell them is that homeschoolers are generally much better at completing programs, much better at individualized learning, which is for a lot of kids going to an institutional setting for their high school, find it really hard to adapt to that learning style in college or university, because it is pretty much you're left to either you want to learn or you don't. And if you don't show up to class, well, okay. Right? So yes, colleges love homeschoolers. They are actually, when you think about homeschooling conferences too, you will often see some of the schools, some of the colleges and universities there with booths, because they want to be really well known to the homeschooling industry, right? To the homeschooling parents and stuff like that. So definitely not, but I know the reason why it comes up. So I want to we want to be able to provide as much real life examples from homeschooling graduates that took different paths, right? And it doesn't all have to be about post-secondary education either. So we're looking to collect that. So I'm going to put a call out right now. If you or you know somebody, if you have children that have graduated, you know somebody that's graduated, and it doesn't matter really what stage they're at. Now, I mean, I would like to say that maybe they're 10 years from graduating at the very most, to try to keep it a little relevant to the times. But if you know anybody that's a homeschooling graduate and would like to be interviewed on our, and just more or less have a little chat, right? Just share their experience. And any homeschool graduates I've heard, it's like it was not easy, and there's different paths you can take. So I want to be able to really show all those different paths that homeschoolers take for their post-secondary education or different careers, right? It's not all about education, but it's a lot about some training that can happen again at home. So right. Great. All right. Well, again, I could have talked forever, and I already see we're at like 37 minutes. So that's almost too long. But I thank you for watching, whether you're watching this live or the recording. Just be encouraged that that parenting is so great when you get to educate your own kids. And we will see you in another couple of weeks for a live stream. We love your questions and your comments. So please feel free to always share that, whether it's after the show or after we actually broadcast or during, but feel free to comment on this post, and we will see that and be able to answer that for you later on too. So thanks all, and I hope you have a very blessed day.
Bye.
Bye.